The Nintendo Switch presentation, the big event, the reveal. Will it be the console that saves Nintendo? Will it be the last console Nintendo ever makes? Will they go third party? Let's panic! I decided to record this before the usual time slot of the CU podcast every other Tuesday because I wanted to get my thoughts out there while they were still somewhat fresh, and I didn't want to be totally lost behind. And now I know on YouTube, it's all about the race to get the information out first, get it out early to get those views, get those clicks. But I wanted to take a little bit of time for the information to marinate, to breathe a little bit. Because unfortunately, for better or for worse, when you have early information come out, early opinions, a lot of times, not saying this is a shot at anyone, but you might not be able to get a grasp of the entire perspective when you are, spitting out a video within an hour of the information coming out. I mean, first you have reaction videos where it's literally just an emotional, visceral response to gameplay footage or information right away that you're seeing without a time to really digest it and really have it roll around in your head and think about the past and history and things like that. That's fine. Or even if you come out the next morning, you're still kind of caught up with it. Oh, this is the end of Nintendo. So I wanted to not take that sort of approach, especially for a topic like this that is, the biggest one out there. But let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. And I want to talk about things in particular, but I'll go through all of it. But I want to talk about and bring up points that I think were missed by some people that I watch and respect. So I was kind of like, all right, well, let's do it. Besides, the BBC did quote me, which is funny. I'll get into that later. So maybe the BBC will quote me a little bit more on this. But the Switch reveal presentation, based out of Japan, had some translation issues in terms of some titles appearing on screen that they showed with no English translation for subtitles. Also having one of those games, I forget which one it was, where the translator just fucking froze. And so that was hysterical just because, it was bad for Nintendo because you didn't find any information about the game that the Japanese speaker was telling us about. But that translator was probably chucked off Nintendo headquarters shortly thereafter. And you had some awkward ad-libbing attempts here and there. And the stage was kind of weird, too. You had a Splatoon scientist cosplayer, which was awkward as hell. So in terms of the presentation itself, it wasn't that good in terms of the on-stage speakers. Not that much enthusiasm. It cut to some Reggie Fils-Aimé stuff in the U.S. and cut back. But overall, it wasn't the most entertaining for that. But of course, the focus was on the gameplay and the features that we've all been waiting for. So first off, let's talk about the price point. $299.99 in the U.S., which is a price point that really shocks no one because, that's been basically the price of the last two consoles. The Wii was started at, $250, Wii U $300 for the deluxe versions, So $300 makes it seem like, this is falling right in line. And this is, somewhat interesting technology that we'll get into on top of that. And it doesn't seem like it's too cheap. I don't think they're selling themselves short, Nintendo, with a $300 price tag. Plus, being that this is coming out in March, they can sort of gauge sales and then come back in the fall or holiday season and then have the opportunity then to either then put out some sort of bundle version at $300, including a pack-in game, which this doesn't have a pack-in, which I'll get into, or then even drop the price to $275 or $250 for a quote-unquote base model, and then also have a $300 version that's bundled with, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or Splatoon 2, because that's going to happen. Nintendo's been doing that forever, where they will put out later versions of their consoles with a popular packed-in game. Going way back to the NES, they've always done that. So that's what's going on with the price point. $300 I think is reasonable, especially since you're replacing essentially two consoles, which I heard brought up a little bit, but not enough that I thought people were totally getting at that. This is replacing the failed Wii U, the Nintendo Switch. But being that can be used first and foremost as a portable, this will be replacing and/or upgrading the 3DS for many, many people at the same time. So from that perspective, and plus, by the way, we have no idea of any other portable Nintendo handheld on the horizon besides the Switch. So really, when you get down to it, that $300 is fairly reasonable because you're replacing a console that costs $300 on its own the Wii U if you bought that, and you're also replacing, a $200 3DS at the same time. So from that perspective, this is actually a bargain for that. In terms of the tablet itself, we confirmed some specs here. It's a 720p tablet. Not totally shocked by that. In terms of the video files out there, 720p is absolutely fine for a small tablet size. I mean, for the most part, that's fine. That's absolutely perfect. That'll help the battery life, and then that's one of the reasons why you put it in that little dock for your TV, so that you get more juice, more energy, and then you'll have a 1080p experience for your games there, while also not worrying about the battery. But it's a 6.2 inch, that's a decent size. 720p monitor, 32 gigabytes of internal storage, which you can expand with a micro SD XC card. I heard a lot of people whine about the 32 gigs of internal memory, but remember, this is a tablet, and like a lot of those Android tablets, you can expand the memory. I thought that Nintendo would have something expandable from the get-go, because they save on cost. And honestly, let's see, what's a 64 gigabyte STXC card cost? We're not talking a huge amount of money. You want to get a SanDisk 64 gigabyte ultra class micro SD XC card. It's only $19.49 on eBay to get from a reputable source. So it's not like this is going to set you back. So even if you don't want to buy it right away, you're really looking only at a $20 upgrade to get 64 gigs on top of it. And you should be set from there based upon Nintendo's history, in terms of downloadable games. 64 gigs, that should be okay for the most part. So I don't see that as a negative, really, at all. Of course, you got your audio jack, you got your game card. They're not cartridges, people. Cartridges have not made a comeback. They are game cards that are back. You have a brightness sensor on here. Looking at this, a Joy-Con strap. I'll get into the Joy-Cons in a bit. Those are the two controllers halves that slide into it. Volume buttons, power buttons, 2 speakers. That's cool. And you also have, the headphone jack I talked about. Battery life. Getting back to the battery life. The battery life, Nintendo said that for Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I would think would be, at least for the first couple of years, if not, that's probably one of the most intensive games you're going to have on the system, on the Switch. You're going to get about 3 hours out of the Switch while playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think that's pretty damn good for an intensive game like that, not in terms of graphics, but having an open world, things of that nature. I don't think you could expect it reasonably to get 6 hours out of a 6.2 inch 720p tablet playing a game like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, obviously, if you're just screwing around with the Switch and probably playing, your virtual console games or things of that nature, it'll probably be a lot longer because those are less intensive. 3 hours is fine, though. When I saw some people complain about that, I was like, have you used a 3DS? Have you used the handhelds or tablets? They don't hold up to really high intensive elements for a long period of time. So I'm actually fine with that. So if you're going on a plane trip, if you don't have, first of all, you might have it. You buy a travel charger. You can probably go on the plane and plug it in underneath your seat. But if not, 3 hours isn't bad. Just sleep the rest of the time, or do what like I do and just pray and hope that your plane doesn't crash into a mountain during that time period. So the tablet's fine. The Joy-Con is more interesting than I think I originally gave it credit for. I'm more intrigued the more and more I hear about the Joy-Con. 2 detachable controller halves. So they're basically mirror images of each other, which is what I was on about originally when it was first announced, was that one of the main selling points about the Switch is that you can take it out on the go or even at home, and you have 2 controllers built in. Kinda. I mean, it will depend upon the game, but for a game like Mario Kart, the 2 Joy-Cons you can give to your friend, and you have 2 different controllers, or you can just use it as one. So you have a directional pad, or directional buttons, not a D-pad. I'll get into that later, but you got your analog stick, you got an L button, you got your ZL button, a capture button, which is interesting. Nintendo's getting on board there. You got your minus button on there, could be some sort of volume or something, not sure about that. Then the mirror image, you have a plus button, right analog stick, which is below the left analog stick, good on that. X, the good old YXBA buttons, the plus button, ZR button, regular Z button on the right, a regular R button on the right. And the specs here are wrong. It says ZR, not R. But then you have a couple other features that they kind of kept close to the vest, Nintendo. You're going to have a motion IR sensor that will be able to read how far away objects are. That's very interesting. That's kind of a first, right, for a game controller. And detect shapes. So in theory, that means like you can use a controller, and according to this article, the sensor would be able to tell if your hand's doing rock, paper, or scissors when you're playing a game. I'm not sure at the outset how useful that'll be for the majority of games, but for party games, obviously, that'll be useful. And they'll be able to work that. Developers will probably be able to work that into some games. Then it has what Nintendo's dubbing HD Rumble, which I always find it funny that everything that's beyond normal now gets tagged HD, because HD just means high definition. What does high definition rumble mean? I don't know. But for Nintendo, it means it's a force feedback sensation that can emulate, for example, according to them, the feeling of holding a glass filled with ice, which was in the presentation, and shaking the cubes inside it. So I guess that means that the sensor knows there must be some sort of gimbal to know like the rotation of the Joy-Con half that you're using and the orientation in order to sort of bounce the rumble around in the palm of your hand. That's a cool idea. Again, the entire usefulness of that I am not sure of right now, but one of the mini games they showed was milking a cow, so I guess you could feel the milk going through your hands. It looks awkward on screen, but hey, that's another first for a controller, so give it up for Nintendo. Almost every freaking console generation having a first for controllers, going back to the NES and trying to keep it innovative. So I guess that's fine. But unfortunately, that probably is part of the reason why the price of these Joy-Cons is not cheap, and especially for replacements. So if you want to buy extra Joy-Cons, you go over to Nintendo's site. Honestly, from the looks of it, I actually kind of like the gunmetal sort of look to the Switch. It actually looks like an ammo box, the dock that you put it in to have it go on your TV. Which, by the way, is supposedly it's like an instant to the TV. As soon as you put that sucker in, when it's on, it goes on your TV. That's cool to me. That's cool. But it's going to cost $80 for an extra set of Joy-Con controllers. US, 80. And then 50 if you just want to buy a left one or a right one, which I don't think anyone will do that. At the very least, you'll probably, unless you, obviously, if you break one, but I think, you figure, I only spent $30 more, which is what Nintendo's thinking. I'm going to buy two of them. Or find a friend that wants a right one and you only need an extra left one. I think the good news here is that at most, you'll probably only have to buy, in some circumstances, one extra set of Joy-Cons. Because as I said before, a lot of these games, you just give the one half to your partner and or friend and or roommate who won't move out. And then you have a 2-player experience. You buy one more set and you have a 4-player experience for those sort of games, for party games, what have you. So yeah, you have the Joy-Con controllers for $80 in red, blue, or gray. You can buy them left or right separately. You got the extra, you got the charging grip, so you can charge it while you play, which means it's basically a battery charger you slide the halves onto with a controller shape to it. And then they're selling the extra Switch dock set for $90. So to me, that means okay, you can take it to another room in the house, have the dock set up somewhere else as well, and slide it in. $90 is a little pricey. Then again, I'm not sure the technology of this. But what this all tells me, before I get into the Switch Pro controller, Nintendo might be taking some sort of loss on the Nintendo Switch console. They didn't remember, the Wii U was the first time they weren't making a decent profit. The Wii, they made a pretty good profit on. The Wii U, they didn't when the console at least first came out for the first time. I don't think they're making some sort of profit on this. The fact that they're jacking up the prices on the Joy-Con. Now, I know the Joy-Con, it has the IR sensor and HD Rumble, whatever that means. But that's pricey. And the $50 for half of one is almost insulting to me. But $70 for a Nintendo Switch Pro controller, that to me is a little that's a little dangerous, because now you're getting, for the first time, you're getting Nintendo selling a first-party controller, to my knowledge at least, that's more than the price of even their AAA titles. That's a major turnoff to me, because now you're going from a console that is costing you $300 before a game to now, in order to really get the most out of this, you'll be looking at $400 after taxes. So if you live in a state with tax, I'm in California, there's a sales tax. You're looking at $400. Ooh, that's dangerous territory if I'm thinking about that. So yeah, I think Nintendo had to recoup their costs somewhere. And yeah, the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller does have the HD Rumble, which I love just saying that. You got your Amiibo functionality, as do the Joy-Cons, I believe. And you're going to have things like that. I wonder, you're going to have the shake weight feature? The shake weight on the Nintendo Switch Pro? That'll be funny. Doesn't say if it has the IR on the Nintendo Switch Pro. Interesting. Huh. Interesting. But again, the Switch Pro controller, I think most gamers will get that up, because it has a good old D-pad. D-pad's not on the Joy-Con. That does bother me. And this is what BBC quoted me on, that this is bad pricing. I do believe that. I think if Nintendo even shaved $10 off this stuff, even if you got this down to $70 for the Switch Pro controller and $60, well, 60 for sure. If you got this down to $60 for another set of Joy-Cons, and maybe even $40 for a half, I would be way more on board with these prices. But $70 for that Switch Pro controller, to me, that's just way unreasonable. I think they should have tried to keep that to $50. But again, profit margin. And that's probably one of the reasons why you're not going to have a packed-in game. Nintendo's trying to maximize that. So for the Wii and Wii U, a pack-in game made sense, because they were tutorials, they helped you learn how to play the stupid game. Wii Sports was a massive hit with those dirty casuals out there that helped Nintendo survive forever due to the mountains of billions of cash they have in the bank from selling over 100 Wii systems. But they're quickly forgotten. And from the 1-2 switch, from what it looks like, at least from what Nintendo's telling us, honestly, you can't always trust that. But it looks a little more complex than a Wii Sports game or Nintendo Land even. The Wii Sports game was a tech demo. Absolutely a sports demo. Obviously a tech demo. They didn't try to hide it. The bowling, yes, the bowling's fun. The boxing's fun. The tennis is fun. But let's not forget that they didn't take them more than 2 weeks to code that stuff. You know what I mean? That's what it was. That was just showing up how to use it. What Reggie Fils-Aimé said in an interview was 1-2 Switch is going to be closer to a Wii Play versus a Wii Sports. Now, if you didn't have Wii Play, I did it. I played it against someone, strip poker at one time. No, it wasn't Ian or Frank. Strip poker. Strip Wii Play. I played Strip Wii Play once. That's going to go in my autobiography. That was a lot more immersive than Wii Sports. But that said, though, a game like Wii Play, I think they tried charging $40 for it, or $60 with an extra Wiimote. That should have been a $30 game, as should 1-2 Switch should be. 1-2 Switch should not be a $60 title. 1-2 Switch should be a $30 title, and Nintendo probably would sell 5 to 10 times the amount if they halved the price. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're hoping that people are going to want to walk away with any title at all to sort of get that Nintendo Land or Wii Sports experience, but I think they're wrong in charging the same amount for a Wii Play type of title as they are doing with their huge launch title, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But that could be something that maybe they'll put out a bundle with that in the fall, or drop the price. They're going to have to drop the price on something called the 1-2 Switch. They're just going to have to. I wish it was packed in. If that was packed in, I would be a lot more stable with the outlook of this system, which, by the way, I should have said up front that I am cautiously optimistic. I see all the fanboy comments right now, but I'm not totally sold on this. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm not saying this is going to be the biggest hit ever for Nintendo, but I'm also not saying Nintendo is doomed and are going to go third party and are going to start selling Mario games on fucking PlayStation, because that's not happening either. It's going to be somewhere in between, which I'll get into. So that's what's going on with that. Let's get into more why Nintendo needs to make money, probably more off the system, but also to catch up. They're going to have an online service. It's going to start for free for trial until the fall. And then once you get to the fall, at that point, you're going to have to start paying. I don't think the prices have been revealed yet. Hopefully it's not more than $10 a month. Hopefully it's not, hopefully you're not going to see Nintendo have something more than, the Xbox or PlayStation, service memberships. That would be insane. I don't think anyone would want to see that. So, what are you going to get out of this service? This service. Well, the biggest ones, there's two ones. The biggest ones is this. Well, first off, hopefully the infrastructure is better. Hopefully this means that the money you're putting into this, that Nintendo's taking in, they're also putting into more sturdy servers, so that when I'm playing Mario Kart, I'm not kicked out of a game every 6 or 7 times. Not saying that always happened, but there was a time when it wasn't the most stable. That's the first thing. But the two big points that I've seen everywhere is that the first one is going to be that you're going to get a Nintendo or Super Nintendo title every month. And I'm not sure if you're going to choose it or if Nintendo's going to give it to you for 1 month, basically a monthly rental that you'll be able to play for free. NES or Super Nintendo, and also play with the first time, which they should have had this. I again tweeted this. Pure fanboy Pat. They should have had this at least with the Wii U or 3DS, if not on the Wii. Multiplayer incorporated. Yes, you're going to get that stuff you could have gotten fucking emulators back in 2000. Online play of NES and Super Nintendo ROMs on the Switch. That's good news. It's not good news, though, is that you're going to have to maybe rebuy the same ROMs you bought 7 times before on the 3DS, on the Wii U, on the Wii, and then going back to your re-releases of Super Mario, World and All-Stars and everything else. Reggie Fils-Aimé said that when he was asked directly, what if I already bought this on the 3DS or Wii U? He said, stay tuned. I'm hoping, God, I hope that, I don't think Nintendo values their old IPs maybe more so than anyone else I've ever seen in the history of video games, most likely, because you've never seen them put out like, oh, for $60, well, for $60, here's an NES Classic Edition you can't buy. But they never said, oh, for $60, here's 50 NES games on for your GameCube. And they never have done that. They're not putting out Midway Classics Volume 4. So they value their IP, their old IP, especially their games, very, very heavily. So I'm hoping that these systems are synced up. By now they've got it figured out that like the Wii U and the 3DS, you're on the same account there, and that'll cross over to the Switch. That if you purchase something for the 3DS or Wii U, I'm hoping and praying that at the very least they'll just charge you some fucking transfer fee, like 50 cents a game. I know, wishful thinking, Pat. Nintendo are going to try to gouge you. 50 cents or $1 for each game you transfer over, or maybe a $10 fee to transfer all of them over at once. Nintendo makes money doing something that they should be doing for free. You don't feel like you're getting totally bent over? They're at least using lube doing that. They're not going in dry. And then you win, and hopefully they throw in that multiplayer functionality. So that's what you're going to get for your Nintendo Online membership. The other big one is going to be an app on your mobile device. Well, that will finally allow you to have, allow you to chat with your friends while you're playing games, or at least in the party chat, things like that nature. While you're in the lobby. I'm not sure how much censorship they're going to have not to allow you. They're afraid people are going to be cursing at each other doing Splatoon. It doesn't matter to me if I have a friend list. I should be able to say whatever the hell I want. But at first I thought that was strange. Why have an app for chatting? Then I realized that Nintendo, the Switch, the whole idea of it, this is really a portable device as well, that you're docking to a TV. The reverse of the Wii U, where, yeah, you have a tablet, but it's not really mobile, that you only can go to the bathroom and back with it. This you can take all over the world. So how would you transfer that experience also at home? Well, hate to say it, you always got your fucking phone on you. So you might think it's kind of cheap and weird to have this have a phone or a tablet be the method to communicate with everyone. There's a audio jack in all your mobile devices. you can take those devices with you all over the world, into your car, to a restaurant, even on a plane. If they allow you to use Wi-Fi to probably access it, put in plane mode. That's actually, the more I think about it, that's actually not a bad idea. That's actually pretty smart. Not being a fanboy, I'm just saying Nintendo thought ahead there. That could be worth it. Again, what's the price point? What else do you get out of it besides those two main features? Because to me, that's what I'm interested in. Okay, let's get into what's actually coming out in the system. Because a console is only as good as the games that come out on it. And I saw a lot of people upset by the launch titles. A lot of people upset. You have a little right to be upset. I don't think you have a huge right to be upset. For a few reasons. One of those reasons I'll get into near the end that I don't think anyone's commented on yet or really talked about, which, not saying that means I'm smarter, but again, it's the whole let's let this information digest. Let's take a step back. But first, this is a console coming out in March. That's not common for a console to do that. So Nintendo, it's another conversation that we'll have real quick. Nintendo thought they had to get this console out in March. Probably two reasons to do that. Wii U sales are fucking over. I did hear murmurings that the 3DS sales were still strong over the holidays. Unfortunately, we're not going to know about that really until probably the first quarter is totally over, fiscal quarter, and we find out what happened with those sales and the profits and everything else. But Wii U sales are done. They've been done for probably a year. Nintendo dropped the hammer on this system a long time ago. A year and a half at least, if not 2 years. So they need another system out to make money. Another reason why they're never going to go third parties, because Nintendo likes money. We all like money. So they needed a system out. They are, however, were also holding on to a huge title that they've kept pushing back. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which has probably been done for the Wii U since, at least 8 months or so, since E3. That puppy's been done. But they realized that they needed an explosive launch title in order for the Nintendo Switch to have a chance. So maybe they were hedging their bets, saying, well, we probably could have waited until this summer, late summer, to come out with this console to be on better footing, but we also need to make money now so our stockholders don't all drop the stock and the value plummets. And people have been waiting for this game that's been delayed time and time again. So could that hurt them? Absolutely. Coming out in the spring. I'm not saying it's a good thing that this is coming out in the spring. I'm just saying it happened. We got to deal with it. So here's the launch lineup of games. Really 5. 1-2 Switch, which I spoke about, which is like we play. I think it'll sell. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That's a system seller to me. It's not the killer app because you can get it on the Wii U as well, technically. And for what everyone's saying, one of the main real differences is, 720p versus 1080p. I didn't expect anything less than that. Super Bomberman R. Konami finally comes to their senses and says, hey, we have these Hudson Soft properties we've been sitting on besides stupid mobile games, and let's do something with them. So Super Bomberman R, that looks pretty fun. A Skylanders game, okay, all right. And Just Dance 2017. Was there one in 2007? Yeah, I think so. Just Dance 2017, which you probably can also get, I think, on the Wii U, probably. And then let's just put in the rest of March while we're here. Snipper Clippers, which is a puzzle game, which, from what I hear so far, could be a sleeper hit. Fast RMX, the sequel to Sleepwalking RMX, I don't know. And Has Been Heroes, which is sort of an interesting 16-bit looking, I guess, JRPG sort of look. Is that a killer lineup for the first month of the system's out? No, it's not a killer lineup. Is it a terrible lineup? No. Because everyone getting the system is going to get Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they're going to be playing that for the first couple of months. And probably one or two of the other games. Probably most likely, if you buy Legend of Zelda, you're also going to get 1-2 Switch if you got kids, or Skylanders if you got kids. Otherwise, you're going to get probably Superman Bomberman R, or take a chance with Snipper Clippers or Has Been Heroes to hold you over. So I'm not super concerned with that. But the amount of vitriol and sort of Nintendo's dead because the launch lineup's terrible. Have you guys seen the other launch lineups that Nintendo has had for their consoles? Do you realize that, the Super Nintendo had a handful or less of launch titles? Do you realize that the N64 had two launch titles for it? 2. Super Mario 64 and Pilot Wings 64. Yeah, you can say, well, everyone wanted Super Mario 64, so I'll say yes, and everyone wants Breath of the Wild. There are the few people out there that don't like Zelda, and that's like, for me, the people that don't like chocolate, because yes, they exist. They're like 2% of the population. They're also usually insane, but they're out there. And I think Ian doesn't like Zelda that much. But anyway, they do exist. But yes, for the vast majority of people will buy Breath of the Wild when they get their Switch. So I'm not concerned about that. But you know what other system that Nintendo put out not too long ago came out in March as well and had an awful, worse than this, launch lineup? The Nintendo 3DS. Remember them? Remember the 3DS? The Nintendo 3DS came out with, these were all of them. Now, this is more than the total number. The Nintendo first-party games that came out when the 3DS launched. And that came out, what was that, March 27th, what was that, 2011? They launched with these games. The killer lineup of Pilot Wings Resort, Steel Diver, and Nintendo Dogs Plus Cats. Nintendo Dogs Plus Cats. None of those 3 games are a system seller. I don't think any of those 3 games are going to be in anyone's the best 3DS games of all time list either. Here are the third-party games of 3DS. You're going to say, well, Pat, what about these games? Okay. All right. Super Street Fighter 4 3D Edition. Sims 3. Madden Football. Pro Evolution Soccer. Lego Star Wars 3. Ridge Racer 3D. Super Monkey Ball 3D. Bust-A-Move Universe. All right. Samurai Warriors Chronicles. Asphalt 3D. What is that? Like a choose your own adventure where you decide how you're going to repave your driveway? I have no idea. Combat of Giants, Dinosaurs 3D, Rayman 3D, and Ghost Recon Shadow Wars. I'd say overall, just based upon the first party games, that's not that much worse than, or even that much better. I'm trying to, it's all about what's the first party versus third party support. But when Nintendo consoles first come out, you're all about first-party titles, because that's why Nintendo will never give up selling hardware, because that's the only place you can get those first-party titles. So I think already, just based upon not even looking at the months ahead, that's the 3DS launch lineup is a lot weaker than the Switch. And the 3DS sold horribly in the first year up until the holidays. They had to slash the price and remind people that, hey, we have a handheld system. But you know what? The 3DS rebounded. And the 3DS sold tens of millions and still is selling decently, not great from what I hear over the holidays. It's 61 million 3DSs have been sold as of sometime last year. That's a big success for Nintendo. So a big success for Nintendo, also launched in March, had what I think was a poor or at least below average launch lineup, and still managed to rebound. So this isn't a death knell for Nintendo. They had third-party games on the 3DS, a good amount, once it got going. And I think publishers and developers understand that they're not going to abandon a console after maybe a few months of bad sales. You got to give it some time. You can argue that, yeah, maybe they have cold feet after the Wii U, but because the fact that a console comes out with not the best launch lineup, because really what console does come out with the best launch lineup, doesn't mean you're not going to have third-party support. Nintendo, during the reveal, did say, now you can distrust them, I'm going to hold them to the word. They have 80 games, first and third party, 80 games are in development right now for the 3DS, for the Switch. Not saying they're all going to come out this year, but they're going to come out. Most of those are going to come out. So you probably get you'll get a few more dozen games by the fall or by the holiday season. They'll be off to a start and they'll sell more. They'll be fine. They'll be floated for the first at least couple of months just on Legend of Zelda. They're going to float along with being, okay, all right, hey guys, we only have about 8 other games, but that Legend of Zelda sure is amazing. And by the way, it looks amazing. I'm not even going to comment on that trailer more than the fact that that's one of the most incredible trailers I've ever seen for a game. I'm not even like I love Zelda. I'm not even the biggest, huge Zelda fan in terms of, I got to buy every new Zelda game and beat it. I'm going to buy this one. Whether or not for the Wii U or Switch remains to be seen right away, but I'm going to buy this one. Not sure about the Master Edition. That's probably scalped right now, but whatever. So going back to the launch, now we're going back to the launch window for this Switch. So you got those, let's just say 8 games for launch, because you got 3 Snipper Clippers also in March, Fast RMX and Hazard Heroes. March 28th, you have Mario Kart. Again, these are only the ones that are confirmed. We're not sure about other ones that are going to be announced for sure. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is in late April. I can see that being a pretty decent seller. If you don't have it already, I think it'll sell marvelously. If this was a launch title as well, I'd say no one would have any complaint, because hey, if you don't have a Wii U, not many people do. It's new to you, and Deluxe is going to add more racers and more courses, things like that. Spring for 2017, you have ARMS, which looks like a more fun than it should be one-on-one fighting game where it's in third person and you use the Joy-Cons and you move a little bit to throw the arms and come in with crosses. It's like Mr. Fantastic Simulator 1000. And yes, they confirmed there will be a way to play it without using motion. I don't like motion. Well, okay, you won't have to use it for this game or most of the games are going to have. Get over it. Motion's been around for 10 years now. Get the hell over it. Disgaea 5 Complete. No idea what that is. Puyo Puyo Tetris is going to be out in the spring. That looks fun. A game called Rhyme. Then for summer 2017, you have one confirmed title right now, Splatoon 2, which is really a beefed up Splatoon. Again, if you don't have Splatoon, I don't have Splatoon. If I have a Switch, I'll probably pick it up because it was a massive success. Probably the biggest new IP for the Wii U, and it's already coming back. Even if it's just an upgrade, that's going to sell well. Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. Hey, the game's 6-7 years old, but you're going to get it on... You're going to get it on your Switch. I'm not going to complain about it. It's third-party support. Here's the killer app, folks. Super Mario Odyssey. No, it's not available for launch. Should it have been? Would you have sold a ton more systems at launch? Probably. But I think that's going to, even if the Nintendo Switch is in the doldrums, the same way, remember, look back at your history, only 6 years ago, the same way, or less than, actually 5 years ago, 5.5, the same way the 3DS was on the fucking ropes 6 months into its release. Everyone was talking like, what the hell is going on with this 3DS with no games? Even if the Switch is still there, which even looking at this list right here, I think it's in a better position to start. You got Super Mario Odyssey that's going to save it. That's going to be the killer app. It basically, as the N64 had Super Mario 64 as a killer app, that's going to be the killer app. It's basically Mario 64 2. I mean, for lack of a better term. You start out in New York City, which, it is weird seeing sort of a goofy cartoon Mario humanoid next to like more realistic humans in New York City. I don't care. I think it looks fun. He's swinging around like freaking Spider-Man on poles and off of buildings. That'd be one to pick up. And then you have 10 more games that are slated for 2017. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. That'll sell at least fairly well since the first one did. Ultra Street Fighter 2, the final challenge. All right, that's a game that's 26 years old, but Ultra Edition. Minecraft. That'll sell well. I mean, don't discount the fact that, people still think Nintendo's a kid's console. It's good to have Minecraft on there. You're going to have a FIFA game. EA was there. Looked like they didn't want to be there at the presentation, but they're on board supporting. You know what? I think the true test is going to be, actually the only test, are you going to see a Madden game on the Switch? If you see a Madden game on the Switch this fall, all right, we got third-party support. Now, supposedly, it's a lot easier to port games from the Xbox One and PS4 over to the Switch, was one of the reasons why, amongst the fact that they're, I think a lot of developers didn't like the pad, but one of the reasons why third parties dropped out, besides the lack of sales as well. But you could not port over games easily to the Wii U. For the Switch, if it's literally going to take you like less than a week to do that, maybe you have to drop the frame rate down a little bit, or the textures, if texture detail, if it turns out the power horse of the Tegra chip isn't up to snuff, well, they'll be doing that shit anyway, because they're going to have 3 different PS4s and 3 different Xboxes out there with, varying degrees of horsepower anyway. So I think that's a big deal. So you're going to get a FIFA game. Sonic Mania. I am Setsuna. No idea what that is. Steep. Siberia 3. That NBA 2K game. All right. Third-party big sports game. Okay. 2 big ones. FIFA's a huge game. So that's the biggest game in the world for EAs. So you got that too. And then Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. All right. And you also had Octopath Traveler 8000 or whatever, the funniest name ever, which isn't on this list. So I don't hate this. I'm not overjoyed with this list of games. But again, this is not the final list of games that are going to come out this year. You're going to have more games. This is just what we know is definitely going to come out, that they are comfortable enough announcing with a good degree of probability these games are going to come out. There will be more games. It's just what's going to be out there. That's enough to float them. If you're following along, the sky's not falling. The 3DS was not a massive failure, and the 3DS was following a sort of a similar model here in terms of March release, maybe 1 or 2 big first-party games, and then get to the holidays. All right, now let's see something. Let's see something now. Show us something. So that's fine. In terms of number that they're shipping out, they're going to be shipping out 2 million. Reggie Fils-Aimé confirmed 2 million for worldwide for the month of March. So really the first few weeks of March. I think that's not a bad number for, again, a springtime release, which is when that's a dead time for releasing games for the most part. Usually it's like you get to early summer, then definitely the fall, and then the holiday seasons. Those are like the 3 big ones. 2 million, I think, is enough to suffice so that you're not going to have massive shortages. Yes, you'll have assholes always scalping these freaking things. And yes, they were sold out basically within a day. All the pre-orders sold out. But from the anecdotal evidence I see, and people have gone to their local GameStops and have seen them in stock there. So it's not like you're going to have a Wii shortage problem, and especially for the holidays. They're not going to be let's put it this way. If there's a shortage for the holidays, the same there was for the Wii for even a year in, you can take those again. Nintendo is dying and never going to produce hardware again, and shovel even more dirt on those arguments if this is still going to be have a shortage by the fall. But 2 million for the first month, I think is acceptable, and I think from that point on we'll get a better gauge. But so far though, I think they're selling fairly well. I have not checked my local GameStop, but from what I've seen, each GameStop is stocking about 25 to 30 in each one. Again, that's not a huge number, but it's also not an inexcusable amount like 5 or 6 for the NES Classic Edition. So 30, I can live with that. We'll see. Check your local stores and see if they're sold out yet. That's all I can say for that. So getting back to the 3DS sales, I brought it up before that they sold 61 million of them. I think it's probably a long shot for Nintendo to hit that number. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility to hit 61 million. I don't think it's going to happen though. Let's look at what the past few consoles, what happened here. 3DS 61 million and counting. Wii U 13 million and probably dripping to a fast halt. We'll say 13. We'll just say 13 and 60, okay? Just to be safe, and who knows, the 3DS can do even another million. Reggie Fils-Aimé said they're still supporting it. There are games still planned for the 3DS. I'd say, in my head, you probably got a year and a half, 2 years left max on the 3DS. What do I know, though? But hey, third-party developers love the 3DS because 60 million is a pretty big freaking number, especially for a handheld. That's a gigantic freaking number out there. I'm going to say, based upon the fact that a couple of factors, one I'll get into in a second, that it's hard to say at this point. We are not going to know if this is going to be a failure or not. We definitely don't know before it's released, based on the fact that you out there hate the launch titles, that it's going to be a failure, because that's really short-sighted and alarmist and not reasonable. Because hell, if you did that with the 3DS, you were fucking proven wrong. You people saying that now, were you saying that in 2011? Probably so. So you can't go by that, the fact that it's coming out in March and you think it has a weak launch window of games. Let's wait until after the holidays. Let's see how it goes. Or at least up to the holidays. Let's see if it's selling out during the holidays. So my prediction at this point, based on nothing, besides the fact that, well, two things. The 3DS did pretty bad for its first year. This is kind of, but then it shot up through the freaking moon. This is kind of the replacement for that. So you're going to have a lot of people seeing this as the replacement for the 3DS and also the replacement for the Wii U at the same time, or both. So, Pat Math, 13 out of 61 is about, what is that? It's 35%. So 35% maximum overlap between people having a Wii U and a 3DS. 35%, right? You with me? Actually, it's only, let's see. No, it's 25%. 25%. Sorry, Pat Math can be off sometimes. About 25% of Wii U saturation versus 3DS. GameCube. I think we're going to be... Let's start with the GameCube. GameCube had 21 million. By the way, I like the fact that during the presentation, they had a little retro sort of nostalgic moment when they said, okay, let's look back at everything we got. Oh, on the NES, we learned that we got a cross pad on our controller and stuff, and we got a ROB that no one cares about. They didn't bring that up. Super Nintendo, we added triggers. N64, we have an analog joystick. All these first for controllers. GameCube, we have a handle on our... Got a handle as a selling point. And then, obviously, Wii motion controls, Wii U tablet. So they're trying to say they're incorporating everything from the past, 7 consoles into... or 6 consoles, well, I can't count, Pat Math, into the Switch. Handle, portable, Switch is portable. They're kind of fudging that one. Anyway, GameCube get 21 million is kind of finally remembered. Did not have the best third-party support, had okay third-party support, not great. And had strong first-party titles. I think it's a safe bet to say the Switch will do at least as well as the GameCube, based upon the factors of replacement to the Wii U, chunk of 3DS, people are going to see this as an upgrade as well. My prediction at this point, based on absolutely nothing, is I think you're going to look at this doing at least a little bit better than the GameCube did, but maybe surprising you. So on the soft side, I'm going to say when this is all said and done, you can go back and to whenever I'm recording this, January 14th, 2017, mark it. You're going to see this do at least, I want to say something like 24 million worldwide sales as my softer bet. And then I'm going to say the sort of reach goal, you're never going to hit 3DS. Maybe you get to like 42 million. Maybe you get to like 2/3 of 3DS. That's my range. Probably closer to 30, though. 30 to 35. But maybe we say 24 to be safe. I'm going to say that's my safe bet. My almost gun to my head bet is 24 million of these. Because of the replacement and the replacement of the 3DS, replacement of the Wii U combination. However, the one point I want to get to that I've seen no one talk about, and not saying it's because I'm smarter than you. I might be, but probably not. Pat's arrogant. Well, what I didn't really see anyone comment on was one of the main reasons, not the only reason, lack of third-party support. People didn't like the tablet. They just weren't into it. They still didn't have a good infrastructure for online. The Wii U, the name itself, the marketing, and you can even say the look of the console even a little bit, didn't differentiate itself from the Wii enough with the quote-unquote casual audience, enough to saturate them in order then to even realize that this new console even exists and I want to get interested in it. Do you recall how many Wii U commercials you saw in the first year or two that console was even out in the marketplace? I remember seeing 1 or 2 commercials the first holiday season that it was even out. And after that, you saw 1 or 2 games I remember seeing commercials for after that. I saw no mainstream press for the Wii U that I can remember or recall. No buzz at all about the Wii U. Say what you will about the Switch, people are talking about this a lot more than they were talking about the Wii U. So by default, more interest for there's no such thing as bad publicity even for this. This isn't going to be like Gamecom, where bad publicity is bad publicity. This is people at least are taking notice of this console. And maybe that's why Nintendo wanted to even wait till the spring. I don't know. I'm not rushing out for the holiday. May have something to do with it. If it was ready for the holiday, they want to stand out. But the fact that the Switch was already on Jimmy Fallon, that alone gave the Switch overall more mainstream exposure than the entire, what are we at now? 4.5 year lifespan of the Wii U. One appearance on a late night talk show with an exuberant Kitty Lake, which is a good thing because he was excited about it. Jimmy Fallon did more for the good name of Nintendo and for promoting this Switch than whatever the hell awful marketing they did for the Wii U, which had accomplished nothing. That's a big one. The fact that it's called the Switch, which isn't a terrible name, but guess what? The GameCube wasn't a good name either. It just wasn't. The Wii, people at first like, what? Oh, Wii, PP. They eventually it caught on, and now you can't imagine the Nintendo Wii being called anything else. GameCube Project Dolphin. That's not going to stick. The NX? The NX doesn't really say anything. The Switch, it's got some sexual connotation, but it makes sense because it describes the system. You switch from portable to console. It has a clicking switch sounds, when you put the freaking Joy-Cons in. I don't mind that either. So, Switch is a fine name. Most importantly, it's not connected with the Wii. When the Wii U was unveiled at E3 2011, and I was there, most of the audience had no idea it was a new console. We kind of knew, but from the presentation, from the fact that the console was shaped the same way as the Wii, it was the same color. And yes, they did change it to black, smart on them, but I think the damage was already done, especially since they had a white version of the Wii U that came out, which was the fucking basic economy model, which, by the way, I'm so happy that there's no dumb economy basic model of this Switch, just one with different colors. Anyway, the fact that Wii U had Wii in it, a large chunk of people, not inside this video game news bubble that we are in, honestly thought that the Wii U was simply an add-on for the Wii, and that killed it from the start. Nintendo did an awful job at the time letting people know that this was not an add-on. Hell, they had to come out at that E3 and tell the freaking journalists shortly after that, oh no, this is a new system. Like the journalists, or it wasn't communicated. When you had stuff coming out before that, like the Wii Fit, the Wii Motion Plus, every accessory and everything said Wii. Why wouldn't, out of those, get on those casual people, the 100 million that make sure Nintendo's going to be in existence until after the apocalypse, even if you say 30 million of those people, or 40 million of those people, or 50, it's safe to say those were the dirty casuals. We'll be safe and say only 50 million people. It's probably more than that. Or the people that bought it, liked it, and didn't come back for the Wii U, or maybe even the 3DS. Well, 60 million 3DS, maybe they did. We'll just say 50 million. Apparently, Nintendo did an awful job getting the word out that was a new console. Because people like gaming. You can say, oh, those people never played games again. Hello? Smartphone? Mobile devices? At the very least. at the very least. Nintendo did an awful job getting them back on board. And the name, the Wii U, did not do them any favors. So this is the point that I don't think has been brought up enough. There's a chunk of people out there in the vast wilderness that still don't... It sounds crazy to me and you, but they still don't know that the Wii U was a different system. That wasn't marketed to them. There was no good advertising out there. So how would they know? So 10 years later, if Nintendo does it right, they show advertisement. It's been on Jimmy Fallon. They see this game called Breath of the Wild, which Nintendo should push to the freaking moon. All these factors put together, you have tens of millions of people out there that might, I'm not saying definite, but there's a chance, get back on board for the Switch because, hey, it's 10 years later. Maybe I have kids now. Here's a cool system for kids. And hey, I didn't know there was a Wii U. Why would they say that? But oh, cool, I bought that Wii 10 years ago in my mid-20s when I did cocktail parties. We did bowling and tennis. 10 years later, I'm going to check out this Switch. Is that crazy? Was it crazy what I just said? Or does that make even a little bit of sense that that's a not just a small possibility, but a decent possibility you're going to capture some of those casuals again and get them back in the fold with a cute, colorful system with a tablet that hooks into a TV that's $300, which 10 years from 2006 when the Wii came out isn't that bad. And I think that's reasonable. Again, I'm not saying that's going to, the Switch isn't going to sell 100 million like the Wii, but hell, out of that factor alone, you might get 5 or 10 million people back. Easily, that's a possibility. So for all these factors alone, this is not going to be a failure. I'm not going to say it's going to be a massive success. I'm not going to say it's going to do 3DS numbers again. It's definitely not going to do Wii U, but it's not going to do Wii U numbers and burn to the ground. That's definitely not going to happen either. But time will tell again. We'll see it in the spring. We'll see where the numbers are at. I am cautiously optimistic about this. I am not 100% sold, but we'll put it this way. I didn't think I had to buy a Wii U. I think I didn't get one. It took me like 9, 12, 13 months. I didn't get one until Mario Kart was freaking out for the system, just about. So I'm going to pick up the Switch a lot sooner. I'm not going to say it's going to turn into a Switch Let's Play channel, but I'm on board with this. I'm not gung-ho fanboy on board, but I like the direction this is going. And that's it for now. And yeah, we'll see who's right. We'll see if Nintendo has at least a moderate success with the Switch, or if they go third party and you see Mario Odyssey on Xbox One. Like that's gonna freaking happen. You know, the one last thing about people saying Nintendo's gonna abandon hardware, this isn't even gonna be Pat math. This is just common sense math. All right, Nintendo gives up hardware because the Wii U is a failure or whatever. Like, did you forget the 3DS was a massive success? I like that people like to throw out the fact that hardware also includes handhelds and portables, which is what the Switch is going to be as well. So they did 61 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll just say the average 3DS price was, even $150, but it's probably closer to 200 overall average when it came out in the XL. We'll split the difference. 175. I can't even read that number, but it looks like, in terms of gross sales, that's over $1 billion. 1.0675 to the power of E10. Nintendo did over $1 billion. What is that? 106. Nintendo did over $1 billion. Not profit, but gross in 3DS sales. You think they're going to give up even that small possibility? Even if they do half of that or a quarter of that, they're going to give up a $400 or $500 million in potential gross revenue. You're out of your mind. Remember, guys, if this is the first time you're watching this or not, this is a segment. Usually I do segments as part of the larger CU audio podcast, the CU podcast, the completely unnecessary podcast with my pal Ian Ferguson, who's currently out sick. He has a GoFundMe to help with medical bills as well. Hopefully he'll be back in the future. I'm not sure when. All right, guys, that's it. I've been talking long enough during this lecture. Remember to listen to the CU podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. This will be a part of that podcast coming up next week, but I wanted to get this out right now. And also, one of the main selling points for Nintendo's hardware is the fact that you can only get the first-party games on there, which is, again, another reason why Nintendo will most likely, 99% of certainty, never go third-party only. They won't probably even go third-party even on top of first-party. They're not going to go third-party anytime soon. So I need a burrito. Again, thanks for the well wishes for Ian. Hopefully we'll see him back in the future with his thoughts on this and many other things, including, burritos. I am kind of hungry. So we'll see you later.